Lieutenant Hannikin's boots echoed against the polished metal floor as she walked through the entrance tunnel of the Galactic Combat Station. The massive structure floated in the void of space, its crystalline walls stretching up into darkness. Thousands of alien spectators filled the viewing decks above, their strange voices creating a symphony of sounds she had never heard before. The arena itself was breathtaking. Holographic displays showed rotating planets and star systems, while energy shields hummed with barely contained power. Advanced weapons lined the walls, each one capable of destroying a small moon. The artificial suns overhead cast everything in a golden glow, making the entire space feel like the inside of a giant jewel. Hannah adjusted her black combat suit and checked the heads-up display in her helmet. Her heart pounded as she realized the magnitude of what she was about to do. No human had made it this far in 300 years. The last one had been defeated in the first round, becoming a joke among the galaxy's warrior races. She walked toward the preparation area where other competitors were gathering. The sight made her pause. These weren't just aliens, they were living weapons. A creature that looked like a walking mountain of stone was testing the weight of a plasma cannon. Another being, covered in metallic spikes, was practicing combat. Moves that would have torn a human in half. Then she saw him. Vexstar of the Kronos system stood nearly 10 feet tall, his blue scales gleaming like armor. Four muscular arms ended in claws that could slice through steel. His reptilian head turned toward her, and his yellow eyes narrowed with immediate disgust. Well. Vexstar's voice boomed across the preparation deck. Look what the transport. Ships dragged in from the outer rim. Every conversation stopped. Dozens of alien eyes focused on Hannah as she continued walking, trying to ignore the sudden attention. She had expected this reaction, but it still felt like being hit by a cold wave. Vexstar stepped forward, his massive form casting a shadow over her. A human female thinks she can play with the big boys. This is rich. He turned to address the other competitors, his voice dripping with amusement. Hey everyone, look at Earth's finest warrior. I bet she weighs less than my smallest weapon. Laughter erupted from several of the alien fighters. A slug-like creature with multiple eyes made a sound that might have been chuckling. Even the Stone Mountain being seemed to vibrate with what could have been humor. Your species belongs in the service tunnels, cleaning our weapons and preparing our meals. Vexstar continued, now clearly enjoying himself. Not in the arena with actual fighters. What's next? Are they going to let children compete? Hannah found her assigned equipment station and began her pre-battle checks. Her plasma rifle was a standard model, nothing compared to the exotic weapons the other competitors carried. She tested the energy cells, calibrated the targeting system, and tried to block out the ongoing mockery behind her. I give her 30 seconds in the first challenge, Vexstar announced. Maybe less if she faints from fear. Humans are so emotionally weak. One loud noise and they break down crying. Another alien, this one resembling a giant insect, clicked its mandibles in agreement. My species keeps humans as pets. They're amusing but hardly dangerous. The words hit Hannah like physical blows. She had trained for 15 years to get here, pushing her body beyond every limit. She had studied every alien fighting style, learned their languages, memorized their weaknesses. But standing here among these titans of destruction, she felt smaller than ever. Her hands shook slightly as she attached her weapon harness. The doubt crept in like poison. What if they were right? What if she was just a foolish human who had gotten lucky in the qualifying rounds? The arena's announcement system suddenly crackled to life, filling the space with an electronic voice that spoke in the universal galactic language. Competitors, report to starting positions. The first challenge will begin in 5 minutes. Vexstar stretched his forearms, each one making a sound like breaking bones. Time to show the galaxy why humans will never be more than servants, he said. Looking directly at Hannah, try not to embarrass your entire species too badly. As the other competitors moved toward the arena entrance, Hannah took a deep breath and followed. The corridor ahead glowed with energy barriers and floating platforms. Whatever lay beyond would either prove her worth or destroy everything she had worked for. The artificial suns dimmed slightly, and the crowd's roar grew louder. The first challenge was about to begin, and Hannah Kim was about to discover whether a human could truly compete among the galaxy's greatest warriors. The human quarters were tucked away in the lower levels of the combat station, far from the luxurious areas reserved for the alien competitors. Hannah walked through the narrow corridors, her boots clanging against the metal grating. The walls were bare steel, nothing like the crystal formations and energy displays she had seen in the main arena. She pushed open the door to find someone already waiting for her. A man in his 30s sat hunched over multiple holographic displays, his fingers dancing across floating keyboards. His black hair was cut military short, and scars on his hands told the story of countless battles. "You must be our champion," he said without looking up. "I'm Jin Park. Used to be Special Forces back on Earth. Now I make my living in the outer colonies." Hannah studied him carefully. Jin wore modified combat armor that looked like it had been through several wars. Various alien weapons hung from his belt, and cybernetic implants glowed softly along his left arm. "What are you doing here?" "Same thing you are. Trying to prove that humans aren't the galaxy's punching bag." Jin finally turned round, and his dark eyes were sharp with intelligence. "I've been watching the security feeds. That blue-scaled idiot Vexstar has been running his mouth about you for the past hour." Multiple screens showed different angles of the preparation deck. Hannah could see Vexstar still talking with other competitors, his forearms gesturing wildly as he told what were probably jokes about human weakness. "Don't let that scaled fool get in your head," Jin said, adjusting the tactical gear spread across his workstation. "I've seen his type before. All brute force, no strategy. He thinks bigger muscles mean automatic victory." Hannah sat down across from him, her weapon harness creaking. "I'm not here to prove anything to him. I'm here to win." But even as she said it, her jaw was tight with determination and barely controlled anger. The insults had gotten under her skin more than she wanted to admit. Jin smiled grimly. "Good, because while he's busy flexing his muscles and showing off for the crowd, I'll be feeding you intel on his weaknesses. Humans have something these aliens don't understand. We adapt." He pulled up detailed files on each competitor. Three-dimensional models rotated slowly, showing anatomical details and combat histories. "Look at this. Vexstar's species, the Chronari, are incredibly strong, but they have one major flaw. Their nervous system is concentrated in 3 specific points along their spine. Hit any of those spots with enough force, and they go down like a falling tree." The display showed the exact locations, highlighted in red. Hannah memorized them instantly. "But that's not the best part," Jin continued. "The Chronari have been the dominant warrior race for so long that they've gotten lazy. They rely on intimidation and raw power. They don't study their opponents. They don't adapt their tactics. They just charge forward and expect to win." Another screen showed footage of previous tournaments. Vexstar's fighting style was exactly what Jin described: brutal, direct and predictable. He would roar, charge forward, and overwhelm his opponents with sheer force. "The other competitors are similar," Jin explained, cycling through more files. "The Zephyrians are fast, but they can't change direction quickly. The Molten ones are nearly indestructible, but they overheat after sustained combat. Every species has weaknesses, but they're so used to fighting each other that they don't bother to hide them." Hannah leaned forward, studying the tactical breakdowns. How do you know? All this, I've been fighting aliens for 10 years. Started as a mercenary protecting human colonies from raiders. You learn fast or you die. Jin's expression grew darker. I've seen what happens when humans try to fight alien wars using alien tactics. We get slaughtered. But when we fight smart, when we use our brains instead of our muscles, we can take down opponents 3 times our size. The arena's announcement system suddenly echoed through the human quarters. The metallic voice described the first challenge in clinical detail. Competitors will navigate a 3-dimensional maze measuring 200 meters in each direction. The maze contains automated defense systems, shifting walls, and gravity traps. The objective is to reach the center and claim the victory crystal. Time limit: 1 hour on the security feeds. They could see the other competitors react to the announcement. Most of them looked excited, eager to begin. Vexstar was the loudest, his booming laughter echoing through the preparation deck. "This will be over before it begins," he boasted to anyone who would listen. "A simple maze. My ancestors conquered entire star systems. This is child's play." He began cracking his knuckles. All 4 hands making sounds like breaking bones. Other competitors nodded in agreement, their confidence obvious. Jin shook his head in disgust. "Look at them. They think this is going to be easy because they're stronger than the maze defenses. They're going to charge in like wild animals and probably trigger every trap in the place." He pulled up a schematic of the maze, somehow acquired from the station's databases. "But look at this. The maze isn't designed for brute force. It's designed to test adaptability and problem-solving skills. The walls shift every few minutes. The turrets can be reprogrammed, and the gravity traps can be turned into advantages if you know how to use them." Hannah studied the maze layout, her mind already working through possible routes and strategies. They're not going to expect stealth tactics. Exactly. While they're smashing through walls and fighting turrets, you will be finding the smart path. That's how humans win. Not by being stronger, but by being smarter. The arena floor began to shift and transform as energy fields crackled to life. Walls of solid light rose from the ground, creating a massive 3-dimensional maze that stretched in all directions. The structure pulsed with alien technology, its surfaces gleaming like liquid metal. 12 competitors stood at different entry points round the perimeter, each one ready to prove their worth. Hannah checked her equipment one final time. Her plasma rifle was charged. Her tactical scanner was online, and Jin's voice came through crystal clear in her earpiece. Round her, the other competitors looked like monsters from humanity's darkest nightmares. The countdown began. 10 seconds. 9. 8. Vexstar flexed his forearms, each one thick as a tree trunk. His reptilian head swiveled as he studied the maze entrance, but his yellow eyes showed only arrogance. "Time to show these weaklings how real warriors fight." He growled. 3, 2, 1. The starting horn blared across the arena, and chaos erupted instantly. Vexstar charged forward like a living battering ram, his massive form smashing through the first wall he encountered. The crystalline barrier shattered into 1,000 glowing fragments. But his thick blue scales absorbed the impact without damage. Pathetic, alien construction. He roared, already moving toward the next obstacle. "These walls are made for children." Other competitors followed similar approaches. The stone-like creature simply walked through barriers, absorbing laser fire from automated turrets without flinching. The insect being used its razor-sharp claws to slice through anything in its path. The slug-like alien oozed through small gaps, leaving a trail of acid that dissolved the floor behind it. Hannah took a completely different approach. While the others announced their presence with explosions and roars, she slipped quietly through her entrance like a ghost. her smaller size, which Vexstar had mocked. Now became her greatest advantage that the maze was a marvel of alien engineering. Walls shifted position every few minutes, creating new passages while closing others. Automated turrets tracked movement with glowing red sensors, their energy weapons charging with an ominous hum. Gravity fields created invisible traps that could pin down even the strongest fighters. Good. You're staying quiet, Jin's voice whispered in her earpiece. The turrets are programmed to target aggressive behavior, while everyone else is fighting them. You can study their patterns. Hannah crept along the wall, watching as a turret swiveled to track the sound of Vexstar's rampage 3 corridors away. The weapon's tracking system was sophisticated but predictable. It responded to noise, movement, and energy signatures in a specific order. She reached the first turret and carefully examined its control panel. The alien symbols were complex, but she had spent years studying galactic technology. Her fingers danced across the interface, accessing the weapon's targeting protocols. Incredible. She whispered, I can actually reprogram these things within minutes. She had turned the turret's targeting system against the other competitors. Instead of shooting at her, it would now fire at anyone else who entered its range. She moved to the next turret and repeated the process. Brilliant! Jin's voice crackled with approval. 3 heat signatures ahead of you. The big stone creature is stuck in a dead end, and that insect thing is fighting 5 turrets at once. They're making so much noise that they're attracting every defense system in the maze. Hannah smiled as she slipped through a gap between 2 shifting walls. The space was barely wide enough for a slim frame, but it led directly toward the maze's center. Behind her, she could hear the sounds of battle growing more intense. Vexstar's roar of frustration echoed through the maze. These walls keep moving. How am I supposed to fight an enemy I can't see? The truth was that Vexstar had punched through so many barriers that he had triggered a gravity trap. The invisible field had caught him mid-charge, leaving him suspended in the air and spinning helplessly. His forearms flailed uselessly as he tried to break free. Target is stuck in Section 7, Jin reported. The gravity field won't release him for another 10 minutes. He's completely out of the running. Hannah encountered her next obstacle, a corridor filled with laser grids that pulsed in complex patterns. The other competitors would have tried to force their way through, probably getting burned in the process. Instead, she studied the timing and found the rhythm. She moved like a dancer, slipping between the energy beams when they flickered off for microseconds. Her years of training had taught her to read patterns that others missed. What looked like random chaos was actually a carefully designed puzzle. Beautiful work, Jin whispered. You're 50 meters from the center. The other competitors are still fighting turrets and trying to smash through walls. The maze's center opened up into a circular chamber dominated by a pedestal of glowing crystal. The victory crystal floated above it, pulsing with rainbow light. Hannah had reached her goal while the others were still lost in the outer sections. She approached the pedestal carefully, scanning for final traps. The crystal was beautiful, about the size of her fist, and warm to the touch as her fingers closed round it. Alarms blared throughout the arena. Victory achieved by competitor 12. Hannah Kimmerworth, the announcement system declared. The maze began to dissolve around her, revealing the other competitors scattered throughout the structure Vexstar was still trapped in. The gravity field. His face twisted with rage and disbelief. The stone creature had gotten lost in a dead end. The insect being was covered in scorch marks from turret fire. In the viewing area, thousands of alien spectators sat in stunned silence. Then, slowly, they began to cheer, not mockingly, but with genuine respect. The human had won the first challenge. Without firing a single shot, Vextar's roar of rage echoed through the station as he was finally released from the gravity trap. This is impossible. Humans don't have this kind of intelligence. But Hannah was already walking toward the exit, the victory crystal glowing in her hand. She had proven that sometimes the smallest competitor could be the most dangerous. The arena transformed once again. But this time the change was dramatic and terrifying. The crystalline walls dissolved away, replaced by a massive circular platform. Suspended in the void of space, stars glittered in the darkness beyond, and the platform itself hummed with deadly energy. 8 competitors remained after the maze challenge. The others had been eliminated for various reasons. Some had been trapped, others had been knocked unconscious by turret fire, and one had simply given up in frustration. Now the survivors stood in a circle, each one eyeing the others with deadly intent. The second challenge begins now. The arena's announcement system declared, direct combat within a shrinking energy field. As the boundaries contract, competitors will be forced into closer proximity. Last fighter standing claims victory. A shimmering energy barrier rose round the platform's edge, creating a dome of crackling electricity. The field was nearly transparent, but Hannah could see its deadly power dancing across the surface. Anyone who touched it would be instantly vaporized. Current field diameter, 200 meters. The system continued. Field will contract at 10-meter intervals every 5 minutes. Competitors may use any weapons or tactics they choose. Vextar's eyes immediately locked onto Hannah. His earlier humiliation in the maze had transformed his arrogance into pure rage. The blue scales along his neck bristled with fury, and his furons flexed with barely contained violence. Finally, a real fight. He snarled, his voice carrying across the platform. No more tricks, no more hiding, just strength against strength. The other competitors spread out across the platform, each one looking for the best tactical position. The stone creature moved slowly, but deliberately toward the center. The insect being clicked its mandibles while testing the sharpness of its claws. A new fighter, something that looked like living liquid metal, began to shift and flow across the ground. Remember what we practiced? Jin's voice whispered in Hannah's earpiece. He's going to charge straight at you. His species always leads with their dominant right arm. Duck low. Go for the nerve cluster behind his left shoulder. Hannah nodded slightly, her hand resting on her plasma rifle. But she knew this challenge would only be won with ranged weapons. The platform was too small, and the other competitors too fast. This would come down to hand-to-hand combat. The starting horn sounded, and chaos erupted instantly. Vextar didn't waste time with the other competitors. His massive form barreled directly toward Hannah, his feet pounding against the platform with enough force to crack the metal. Time to crush the little pest, he snarled, his furon spreading, wide like he was trying to catch a small animal. But Hannah had spent hours studying footage of his fighting style. She knew exactly what he would do. As his dominant right arm swung down toward her head, she rolled to the side, using her smaller size to slip under his reach. Vextar's massive fist crashed into the platform where she had been standing, leaving a crater in the reinforced metal. His momentum carried him forward, and for a split second, he was off balance. That was all the opening Hannah needed. She sprang up behind him, her combat training taking over. Her elbow struck precisely at the nerve cluster Jin had identified, hitting the spot where his alien nervous system was most vulnerable. The impact sent a shock through Vextar's entire body. What? He gasped, stumbling forward. His left arm went numb, and confusion replaced the rage in his yellow eyes. That's impossible. Your species doesn't have that kind of precision. I'm a human who learns from mistakes. Hannah replied, already moving into her next attack. Your mistake was thinking strength was everything. She launched into a series of calculated strikes, each one targeting a different weakness in his alien physiology. A punch to his solar plexus disrupted his breathing. A kick to his knee joint made him stagger. Another strike to his nerve cluster sent his right arm into spasms. Vexstar tried to fight back, but his movements were clumsy and unfocused. He had never faced an opponent who understood his weaknesses better than he did. Every time he swung one of his massive arms, Hannah was already somewhere else, striking at points that sent waves of pain through his system. The other competitors had stopped their own battles to watch. The stone creature stood motionless, its ancient eyes fixed on the incredible sight. The insect being had paused mid-strike against the liquid metal fighter. Even the automated systems seemed to be recording every moment. "You're just a human," Vexstar gasped, dropping to one knee as another precise strike hit his lower back. "This isn't possible. We're the warrior race. We're supposed to be superior." "Being superior isn't about being bigger or stronger," Hannah said, circling him like a predator. "It's about being smarter, faster, and more adaptable." She delivered a final strike to the base of his skull, hitting a pressure point that sent him crashing to the platform. His massive form lay still, not unconscious but completely unable to move. His nervous system had been systematically shut down by someone who understood it better than he did. The arena fell completely silent. Thousands of alien spectators in the viewing area stared in absolute shock. The tournament favorite, the being who had mocked humans as weak and primitive, had been defeated by the very person he had insulted. "Vexstar of the Kronos system has been eliminated," the announcement system declared, its electronic voice somehow sounding surprised. The energy field began to contract, forcing the remaining competitors closer together. But now they all looked at Hannah with new respect. She wasn't just a human who had gotten lucky. She was a warrior who had studied her enemies and turned their strengths against them. "How did you know?" Vexstar whispered from the platform, his voice barely audible. "How did you know exactly where to strike?" Hannah looked down at him, her expression serious but not unkind. "Because humans don't just fight with our muscles. We fight with our minds. We observe. We learn. We adapt. That's what makes us dangerous." The liquid metal fighter began to approach, its form shifting into something resembling a humanoid shape. The insect being clicked its mandibles in what might have been respect. The stone creature remained motionless, but its ancient eyes showed a new wariness. Hannah had won more than just a single combat. She had proven that humanity belonged among the galaxy's warriors, not as servants or weaklings, but as equals who brought their own unique strengths to the fight. The energy field had contracted to its final size, creating a circular arena now, larger than a basketball court. Only four competitors remained standing on the scarred metal platform. The liquid metal fighter rippled like mercury, constantly shifting between different weapon forms. The ancient stone creature stood motionless, its rocky hide scarred from countless battles across the centuries. The insect being flexed its razor-sharp claws, its compound eyes tracking every movement. And then there was Hannah, the human who had already shattered every expectation. Final challenge parameters. The announcement system declared, "No weapons permitted. Hand-to-hand combat only. Multiple opponents allowed to engage simultaneously. Victory condition, last competitor standing." Automated arms descended from the arena ceiling, removing all ranged weapons from the competitors. Hannah watched as her plasma rifle was taken away, but she felt no fear. Jin had prepared her for this moment. "This is it." His voice crackled through her earpiece. "Everything we've trained for comes down to the next few minutes. Remember, they're stronger, but you're smarter. Use their size against them." The three alien competitors formed a rough triangle round Hannah, each one approaching from a different angle. They had learned from watching Vextar's defeat. They wouldn't underestimate her again. But they also wouldn't give her the chance to. Fight them one at a time. The insect being struck first. Its claws whizzing through the air fast enough to cut steel. But Hannah had studied its movement patterns during the previous fights. She dropped low, rolled between its legs, and used its own momentum to send it stumbling toward the stone creature. The ancient being caught the insect fighter with arms like tree trunks. But the collision gave Hannah the opening she needed. She sprinted toward the liquid metal opponent, which was currently shaped like a humanoid with blade arms. Mistake, she whispered, remembering Jin's lessons about alien physiology. Liquid metal fighters have to maintain a solid core to keep their shape. She feinted left, then of right. Her fist connecting with the creature's center mass, the impact disrupted its molecular structure, causing it to lose cohesion and splash across the platform like spilled quicksilver. But the victory was short-lived. The stone creature had shaken off the insect being and was now charging toward her with the force of a landslide. Each step cracked the platform, and its rocky fists could pulverize her bones with a single hit. Hannah waited until the last possible second, then leapfrogged over the creature's back, using its own momentum to carry her to safety. The ancient being crashed into the arena wall, its stone hide cracking from the impact. Incredible footwork, Jin's voice praised. But you've got two more coming at you. The insect being had recovered and was approaching more cautiously now. Its compound eyes calculating angles of attack. Behind it, the liquid metal fighter was slowly reforming, its scattered parts flowing back together like a reverse explosion. Hannah's mind raced through every technique Jin had taught her. She was faster than her opponents, but not by much. She was definitely smarter, but intelligence meant nothing if she couldn't find a way to use it. Then she saw it, a crack in the platform where the stone creature had impacted the wall. The metal was weakened, and beneath it, she could see the energy conduits that powered the arena's systems. Jin, what happens if I overload one of those power conduits? She asked quickly. The whole section would shut down, including the artificial gravity in that area. Why are you, oh, you brilliant woman? Hannah smiled grimly and began to run. The insect being pursued her, its claws scraping against the metal. The liquid metal fighter flowed across the platform like a wave, trying to cut off her escape route. She reached the damaged section of the platform and began pulling at the broken metal plating. Sparks flew as she exposed the energy conduits. Underneath, the insect being was only seconds away, its mandibles clicking with anticipation. Come on, she whispered, her fingers working frantically at the alien technology. Just need to cross these two wires. The conduits sparked and overloaded just as the insect being reached her. The artificial gravity in that section of the arena suddenly cut out, and the creature found itself floating helplessly in zero gravity. Its claws, so deadly on solid ground, were useless without something to push against. Hannah used the wall to push herself toward the floating alien, delivering a precise strike to its nerve center. The insect being went limp, drifting away like a leaf in the wind, to down, to go. The liquid metal fighter had almost reached her when the stone creature recovered from its collision with the wall. The ancient being was moving more slowly now, its rocky hide showing cracks from the impact, but it was still incredibly dangerous. Hannah made a split-second decision. She grabbed one of the exposed energy conduits and yanked it free, creating a spray of electrical energy. The liquid metal fighter, being essentially a conductor, convulsed as the electricity coursed through its body. Its form scattered again, this time taking much longer to reform. That left only the stone creature, which was approaching with the patience of geological time. Its ancient eyes showed a hint of what might have been respect. "You fight well, small one." It rumbled in a voice like grinding rocks. "But stone endures when flesh fails." "Maybe," Hannah replied, breathing heavily, "but flesh learns when stone remains the same." She had one last trick, something Jin had taught her about leverage and physics. As the stone creature reached for her with arms like boulders, she didn't try to fight its strength instead. She used its own weight against it, a precisely placed kick to its ankle, combined with a pull on its extended arm, sent the massive being tumbling toward the weakened section of the platform. It crashed through the damaged metal and became tangled in the exposed conduits, electrical energy crackling round its rocky form. The ancient creature wasn't hurt, but it was trapped. Unable to free itself from the maze of cables and metal when the dust settled, Hannah stood alone in the center of the arena. Her combat suit was torn and smoking. Her body ached from a dozen impacts, but she was victorious. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then, slowly, the crowd of alien spectators began to cheer. Not the mocking laughter she had heard before, but genuine admiration and respect. Thousands of voices from dozens of different species joined together in appreciation for what they had witnessed. Vexstar approached the platform, his massive form moving slowly. His earlier rage had been replaced by something Hannah had never expected to see: humility. I was wrong about your kind," he said, his head bowed in respect. "You fight with honor and skill I have never seen. You defeated me not through luck, but through superiority." Jin's voice crackled through her earpiece, filled with pride. Not bad for a weak human female. The arena's announcement system echoed across the station. "Victory to Hannah Kimmerworth, first human champion in galactic history." A crystal podium rose from the platform center, and the championship crystal materialized above it, larger and more brilliant than the one from the maze challenge. Hannah reached up and grasped it. Feeling its warmth pulse through her fingers, she raised the crystal high above her head, and the crowd's cheers grew even louder. In the viewing areas, she could see alien spectators on their feet, showing respect in dozens of different ways as she stood on the winner's platform. Hannah thought about every human who had been underestimated. Every person who had been told they weren't strong enough or smart enough or good enough. She thought about the colonies on the Outer Rim, where humans worked as laborers and servants for alien masters. She thought about Earth itself, still seen as a backwater world by most of the galaxy. Today, she had changed that. Today, she had proven that humanity deserved respect. The championship crystal pulsed with rainbow light in her hands, and Hannah Kim smiled. She had won more than just a tournament. She had won recognition for her entire species in the depths of space, on 1,000 different worlds. Humans would hear about this victory. They would know that they were not inferior, that they could stand as equals among the stars. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity. Again, the end.